Ladies and gentlemen,
everybody wants the prize, but nobody wants to pay the price.
Can they be pushed? Do they have a sense of urgency? Do they want to be great?
And then, of course, you look at them and be like, yeah, right.
Everybody wants to be on your team when you're on top.
I saw the angel and the marble, and I carved until I set him free.
But the most important part of the Be Somebody journey is the resilience.
Welcome to the Be Somebody Podcast, your real and raw destination for all things entrepreneurship, leadership, and culture, with your host, Kash Shaikh, and our CEO and founder of Be Somebody Inc. and BSB Group International, Kash Shaikh.
Go be somebody, bro.
Hey,
good luck.
Keep out watching out for us. You guys
We
will. Take
sure
care.
will.
What's going on, Bakash?
What's up, Kash?
Man, it's awesome to be back already with episode 2. We're hitting with that 1-2 punch pretty quick,
right.
Because we're just trying to help lay the foundation of the journey that we had at Be Somebody and how we've evolved with BSB Group International. And episode 1, we got to talk a little bit about that.
Yep, we did. And for all the listeners out there, I mean, episode 1, great story, great journey of Be Somebody and BSB Group International.
It's hard to fit that in like 20, 30 minutes, man. Don't you think?
It's always a challenge, right?
Because we get asked to go share the story quite a bit, and there's just so many things. And you know what always inspires me, man, is that like every company that has built something has their story. And you don't realize it when you go and you buy something from a company, or you meet a founder and they're 6 years in or 7 years in. Like, you don't really like realize that, man, this person must have went through so much shit to get to where they are, especially if they're successful. So it's so hard to get that in like 20 or 30 minutes, but we tried. We sprinted.
We did. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a sprint for sure. Because I know we could have gone for hours and hours. And
we'll pepper some stuff in, right, Herbie? Like throughout the time.
Always got that shot clock going. So
exactly.
Well, what we want to do today, episode 2, is really kind of focus on one area of the journey that probably is the most visible one when you Google Be Somebody.
Right.
It's the first thing that's gonna, it's gonna have some opinions and a lot of different points of views about, and that's really going into the Shark Tank.
Right. Of course, man. And
journey, the Shark Tank episode and everything that came around it. So we just want to hit the Shark Tank episode a little bit, because that's what everyone kind of Googles and they find out about, and everyone's got an opinion about it.
Taking me back to a dark place.
Yeah, I know.
You're bringing me back on a Sunday to the darkness. It's supposed to be the Lord's Day.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
The Lord's Day.
I think it really goes back to episode 1 about the resilience and keep going. I think it really hits that really well. And so before we get into the actual Shark Tank episode, because everyone can watch it on YouTube, it's probably one of the most viewed, Shark Tank episodes ever. But how did you get to the Shark Tank episode? Like, tell us a little bit about that story.
It was, it was crazy because it was early 2016, and our platform was growing. I had just moved to Boston from Austin, and I moved to Boston. Another long story, but I met someone on a subway in New York that happened to ask me what I was doing with my life, and I proceeded to tell him, and turned out he was the chief of staff of the former governor of the state of Massachusetts, Deval Patrick, a great guy named Doug Rubin. And we connected, and he was like, man, I really think you have something in this Be Somebody platform about connecting people based on shared passions and creating a marketplace where people could learn anything they were passionate about by booking an experience on the app and then meeting in person for the experience. So he's like, you got to meet the governor. And I was like, I'll be there tomorrow.
Let's do it.
I ended up literally taking a train from New York to Boston the next morning to meet with Governor Deval Patrick. And anyway, I was in New York. I was in Boston, and ended up going there quite a bit. Ended up moving there to be close with Doug and the team and try to build the next evolution of scaling Be Somebody, because we had been doing well in Texas and we were trying to get to the coast and grow.
Right.
And there was a conference in New York, and I believe it was in April of 2016. And I'm trying to remember the name of the conference. It was some tech conference in New York.
Okay.
And we had a table there, and we were just, doing the startup hustle with like the 6-foot table with the tablecloth, and just demoing the app to everybody. And there's about 20,000 people there. And it turned out that there was also a Shark Tank casting call. And I also had a mini keynote presentation at this conference. And I was speaking there, and I had a 20-minute talk. And I got up around like 11 a.m., something like that. I gave my talk about Be Somebody, and I was very passionate about it, talked about it. And when I got off the stage, one of the assistant producers that was there with Shark Tank was like, hey, you should probably try out. Like, I really liked your talk. I liked the energy. People here aren't having the energy. There was 5,000 people that were signed up to pitch at this casting call.
Wow.
And I call it a casting call, and it's important to call it a casting call because it is straight up reality TV. I mean, it's reality TV. And what's the one thing, Vikas, we know about reality TV?
It's always scripted.
Yeah, it ain't real.
No, it ain't real.
So, but that aside, I talked to one of the producers, and he gave me a little ticket number for me to literally be 5,001, the last person to pitch for Shark Tank. So, and it was the end of the day. So I went back to my booth. I was there till like 5:30. The line went through, and I was the last person to pitch. And you had 1 minute to pitch the producers.
Okay.
So, and I had been kind of pretty well trained on it because we already raised a couple $1 million. And we had already kind of, I had been in a lot of settings in my corporate career and things like that where I could sell or pitch pretty well. Getting it down to a minute. You guys have heard me talk. I mean, that's the challenge, getting it down to 60 seconds. But I got a pitch, and then they started asking me questions. It was actually you go in the casting call, and there's a little room. There's 4 producers there, and you pitch, and then usually if they don't like it, they just tell you to leave. If they like it, they ask you questions. So they started asking me questions, and what was supposed to be a minute ended up being about 20 minutes because they asked me a ton of questions.
It's a good sign. Yeah,
so I was like, this feels pretty good. I ended up leaving there, and about a couple weeks later, I got a call from one of the producers saying, hey, we think we want you on the show. Now, the whole time that you're supposed to be on the show, they're like, don't tell anybody about it. If you tell anyone, you're going to lose your chance, blah, blah, blah. Like, they make it seem so top secret. And I never was a big Shark Tank viewer or connoisseur. Like, I, of course, knew about it, but I didn't watch it, really.
Okay.
I don't really watch a ton of TV. I don't do any of that stuff. So, but one of our team members at the time, one of my old buddies, Matt Bennett, was like a super fan of Shark Tank, and he was like, "Oh, you got to get on it, just do it." And I was kind of like, "No, I don't want to." And I'm a like a internal what is it? I'm a like introverted extrovert. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I speak a lot and I do a lot, but I kind of like to be in my little shell, and like the idea of going on national TV and stuff, I don't really want to do it. I'm gonna look funny, that type of stuff. But he was like, "No, you got to do it. You got to do it." So anyway, we go along. There was a phone interview. We had to create a video, a 10-minute video.
Okay.
In the video that we created for Shark Tank, I actually started it with this spoken word piece that was the original kind of catalyst to the Be Somebody movement when I left GoPro. And it was called I'm Calling Bullshit.
I remember that.
And it was I don't even know if I remember. It was like, I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling every single one of you out. I'm calling myself out. All this talk about dreams and drive and destiny, all these conversations with love, inspirational quotes and motivational mantras. I could keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
It was about a minute and a half. And it was actually a kind of a paradoxical spoken word because it said, I'm calling every single one of you out, but I'm calling myself out. And I actually wrote it on the back of a napkin in my apartment on the 17th floor in San Francisco 2 weeks before I was about to leave GoPro because I was sick of having this side hustle, not even a hustle because I wasn't getting paid, but a side passion of Be Somebody blog and telling people to follow their dreams and live their passion. But then I was going to a corporate job every day that I wasn't super passionate about. Right. So I called myself out and I was basically like, now is the time to go after that dream. So I opened the Shark Tank pitch with that, and then I got into the business model and everything. So I sent that in, and it was like, they said, 10% chance if you get past this stage. And then they called me and they said, we love your video, and you got to talk to a couple more people, but we love the energy and all that. And they said, 1% chance you get past this stage, and I got past the stage. And by this time, it was about May, and they're like, we want to fly you to LA in June to come do pitch our studio producers. And at this time I was like, oh yeah, like
let's go.
Now I was in the middle of pivoting the company to skills training. If you listen to episode 1, you see like I was in the middle of, because of the expense of the marketplace, the passion marketplace, and because of what was happening in the job market, and all the talk, whether it was Donald Trump or the Democrats at that time in 2016, it was about jobs. So I was going to pivot the company to skills training. And me being a marketer for 12, 13 years at Procter & Gamble, GoPro, I was like, I want to use this free publicity to market the pivot so that everybody will know, because typically you get, 4 to 5 million viewers on Shark Tank. I'm like, I'm going to get a free, ad. So that was my plan.
Oh, wow.
So I went to, ended up going to LA, ended up pulling 3 people from the Besomebody community to be part of the opening, little pitch that you do. Christine Lilly, the most capped women's soccer player in history, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, 2-time World Cup champion, one of the top 5 women's soccer players of all time, was part of our community. I asked her to come. I asked Travis Brewer, American Ninja Warrior, finalist and calisthenics influencer to join. And I asked 4 young women, from the University of Texas I knew that were Bhangra.
Yeah.
India. I have to bring the South.
Yeah,
I have to bring
exactly.
the Indian. I have to represent to do a little Bhangra.
I was dancing during that time.
and I had this good flow, and they were adamant about me coming in doing the call-in bullshit, the spoken word. They're like, it's so powerful, and I said, but people won't have the context. If they don't have the context, it's not going to make sense.
Right.
And they said, no, you'll be able to tell the context. It's a long pitch. Now, the longer episodes air for 8 minutes, but your shoot and your production can last anywhere like 2-3 hours. Okay. When you're in LA. People don't realize that. So I went in there on the audition, and I said, okay, I'll do it. We kind of scripted the flow, and I came in calling bullshit, calling every single one of you out. But then I also said, I called myself out 3 years ago, and walked away from everything that I once thought was important: money, lifestyle, job, things, to go all in on what I truly was passionate about. Now that was like the storyline. Yeah. And when I did it, and then we had the Bhangra, we had the ninja on the tire, and we had soccer player, and everyone in the studio, I'm telling you guys, was like a standing ovation. There was 40 people in front of me. They're all clapping. And they were like, this is so good. Because then they're usually giving people feedback. Because I was watching everyone else, and everyone was getting feedback, and you change this. They were like, no changes. Amazing. You're ready for prime time. But as it was going on, they were like, man, you're really good talking about passion, and your platform's really good. We're thinking about doing a different show, piloting a Be Somebody show where you're going around, you're the Bear Gorillas, and you're going around, and you're going to people around the country that are living their passion, interviewing them. We want to shoot a pilot, like we're raising money for it. So like I walked out of that thinking like I was the freaking man. Like,
Yeah.
I remember calling my dad, and I was like, Dad, like this shit's about to blow up. Like
This is it.
They're gonna love us. I got a standing O. They want to create our own TV show. Like, it's probably not possible for my head to have been any bigger. Like at that point in time, like my head was massive, man. I was like, I'm gonna be a star, So then I ended up coming back a few days, or I can't remember, a week later for the actual taping, and it's full on LA set. You got a trailer, and we probably have it somewhere on my phone or on my GoPro, because I remember you're not supposed to take anything in, but I snuck my little phone and GoPro in there, and in the trailer, of course, content,
Yeah.
I'm psychopath. But I like remember videoing it in the trailer and be like, my life's about to change. Like, thank you, God, for this opportunity. Thank you for the chance to create this dream. Like, I'm about to go out there. I'm so ready to go pitch this. And I really believed I was going to go get, like, Mark Cuban was going to be like, you're amazing. Like, here's $5 million. Because I was asking for $1 million on a $10 million valuation.
Okay.
And what a lot of people don't know is when I raised my first $1 million in 2014, that was on a $14 million valuation. And I can tell you that now without sweating or worry about what I tell, because, you know, knock on wood, thank the Lord and the universe, we bought out all our investors at Besomebody Inc. So we don't got to answer to nobody no more.
Yeah.
All right. Look up that article. But, so we, 14 million. So I actually was doing what was called the down round for Shark Tank to make it a little bit more feasible. They told me there ain't no way the sharks are going to put in $1 million on a $10 million valuation for an app, because the show is mostly like consumer products, things like that.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
I mean, people get $10,000, $50,000, but I couldn't lower the valuation more or ask for less because I already had investors.
Okay.
So at that point, I could have, and this is the producers telling me all this stuff beforehand. So at that point, I could have walked away, but they said, look, 50% of people, I mean, this is how it has to work. 50% have to get a deal, 50% don't. You can be in the 50% that don't get a deal, but you'll get a ton of exposure, and you'll be able to market your pivot. And I said, I'm in, you know. And I honestly felt like, because I got the standing O at the, you know, audition, because I felt like I know how to talk, because I felt like I knew my business, like nobody could make me look stupid. I really believe that. And I felt that I was going to tell the story of Besomebody and connect with millions of people, because that's what had happened. That's how we grew, telling the story. I used to do town halls every Friday in Austin, and it was like a, you know, it was like a church sermon. If you see the pictures of it, I mean, it was packed, and it was just, people were so passionate about what we were building. But right before I'm about to go on in that tunnel that you see on Shark Tank, if you guys see, I'm behind the curtain or the stage where it opens up, and they're like, this is game 7 of the NBA Finals. You got to win this game. That's the energy we want from you. So I walk out like a psycho going, woo, you know, walking out, yeah, you know, coming into the show. And I don't think anyone's ever done that. And then I go to the thing, and then I'm like, I'm calling in bullshit, you know, and I do my thing. But I say the whole thing that I was supposed to say.
Yep.
You know, I called myself out 3 years ago, walked away from everything, and now our mission at Besomebody is to help everybody live theirs. Like, I went in all into my passion. Our mission is to help everyone live theirs. They loved it. They were clapping. Everyone loved it. And then we basically had about an hour back and forth with the Sharks.
Okay.
So people only saw about 7-8 minutes, but it was an hour shooting. But I did know right away that something was up. Because first of all, the TV that I was supposed to demo the app wasn't in the room. And like, oh, where was it? I'm like, come on, man. This is a multi-million-dollar Emmy award-winning show with, like, you know, Mark Cuban on it. There ain't no TV for me to demo my app. Like, this ain't like the local, you know, small business convention. So I'm like, all right, something's off, but I stayed totally cool. I'm like, I know they're about to bring a TV in here, and when they do, I'm going to demo the app. But in the meantime, let me talk to you. I mean, I was, you know, we need a WikiLeaks. Like, we need to find the content for the whole thing. But so that happened. And then I was telling the story of Besomebody similar to what we did the last episode, in a little bit more detail, because the producers had told me to. And then right as I was like halfway in, Mark Cuban's like, this is real. This is in the episode, and this part was not edited. This was real. He was like, Kash, you're talking too much or whatever. Like, you know, he's kind of like, whenever there's too much of the backstory, I know it's like bullshit or something. And I was like, oh shit.
Like,
the script just changed. And honestly, if I could go back in time, I would have walked out. I really would have walked out, because I knew that this was not like what was supposed to be, because it was, you know, it's a reality TV. It's scripted. I mean, we know the flow, and it was off script. But some of that was my naiveness, my naivete. Some of it was my arrogance, thinking that I was too good, better than I was. And some of it was just my literal, like, pure belief that I could change all these people's minds. Like, even if it wasn't in the script for me to get money, like, I could just inspire them. And so I hung in there knowing, and it kind of went off the rails with the questions, because there were 6 sharks. They were all asking me different things. Did that for about an hour. spoke a lot about the business. Spoke about 30 minutes on the business. Walked out feeling bad about what happened, but still feeling okay because I knew I wasn't going to get a deal. Remember, we already talked that before with the producers. And I was like, you know what? The Sharks tried to get me, but I was still kind of a G. Like, I was like 1 to 10. I give myself a 10 and how I handled it. And I'm very hard. You guys know I'm hard on myself.
Right.
I was like, I was a 10. So I was bummed. And what I will say, when I went back to my hotel and I was dating someone at the time, and Kayla, and she was there, and Matt Bennett was there, and obviously the dancers and soccer players there. So they all saw.
Yeah.
And so there's like 7 people in the world, including the producers and the Sharks, that know what really went down. But I did go back to my hotel room and I cried, man, because I was just disappointed, because I thought it would be a more pure, clean opportunity. Yeah. And at this point, I was broke. Remember, and we talked about it. So I was broke, and this was my one shot for like free publicity to like re-inspire, regenerate, invigorate the app and the pivot. And even though I thought I held my own, I was like, why did they do that? Like, I was bummed. That was like in June of 2016. And the episode, and a lot of things happened after that, that made our journey worse with investors and loss of traction and running out of money. And the episode aired in November of 2016. And I was still dumb or desperate, because I knew we didn't get a deal, but I thought I did pretty well. So I still promoted the hell out of the Shark Tank episode. Like, right. You would think people would be like, don't, lay low, but I was posting on Facebook for weeks, like posting little, snippets, telling people watch the show. Yeah. I hosted a watch party at my house with, to watch. And, long story short, the first minute when it aired, I felt, the instant it aired, I knew it was going to be bad. My stomach hit the floor, because when I started with my spoken word of I'm calling bullshit, I'm calling everyone out, they put some like hip hop music beat behind it, like I was trying to rap. And I was like, oh, hell no. Man. This is going to be bad. And then after that, it was pretty good. They cut out some parts. And this is where, look at us with all these cameras around us. And I've been in marketing, 18 years now. I mean, I should have known and thought, they're going to edit it or whatever. But in the moment, I didn't think that. And the first minute and a half, 2 minutes was still pretty good. It looked like, things were going to be good. If I was watching and didn't know, I'd be like, maybe this guy's going to get a deal. Maybe it's going to be good. Then all the way up into the commercial break, it was pretty good. And then after the break, it got pretty bad. It got bad. And they were like, basically pretty much like making fun of me. Obviously didn't get the deal, but I feel like I looked stupid. And the thing that hurt me the most is like, now you guys know me, and you would talk about it with your friends and family, whatever, but I know my business. Like, I know my numbers. I've always been very good with that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But they made me look like I didn't know anything about business. And that hurt me. That was like the one thing when I remember I said, they could never make me look stupid, but they did. And a lot of it was my fault, because it was a little bit too much ego, that I didn't think that could happen to me. I got 60,000 emails in a 48-hour period after Shark Tank.
Wow.
42,000 told me pretty much I was the dumbest person on the planet, and that's a G-rated version, So 18,000 people told me they love my idea.
Right.
But, as humans, we don't focus on that. I mean, and I read every single one. And I'm not talking about Instagram comments. I'm not talking about Twitter.
Just emails.
I'm talking about emails.
Wow.
Like, after that aired, I walked to the end of my driveway at my parents' house, left everybody inside the little watch party. I remember looking at my dad before I walked out and telling him, Dad, that's not how it went down. I was, and I could tell in his eyes, he didn't believe me. I could just see he was kind of like, okay, it's okay. Don't worry. We all mess up.
Oh, that's rough.
And, I walked down to the end of the driveway and, and I cried again. And I was like, why, man? I'm trying to do something good. I'm trying to help people do what they love, make money doing what they love, follow their passion. Like, why would someone, characterize me that way? That was the lowest point. November
That right there.
2016. Because, and we talked about resilience in the last episode.
Yeah.
But if you can imagine, as somebody who always wanted everybody to like him, and always try to do things, to try to get that support following, to have so many people, strangers, messaging you, telling you you're an idiot or making fun of you. And by the way, our episode became one of the most watched episodes in history. It's also one of the most rerun episodes in history. So, every few months when I start getting my follower count starts blowing up, I get all these notifications. I'm like, oh, must be a rerun.
Yep.
People are getting softer though in the years since then, like
Really?
where people are like being nicer. I gotta show you guys. I got a message on LinkedIn literally yesterday saying, hey, I saw someone in India who watched it. He's like, I really liked your episode, your Shark Tank episode.
Oh, wow.
See, look, loved your episode on Shark Tank.
Wow.
So anyway,
That's crazy.
the lesson for Shark Tank to me was the last bit of ego that needed to be erased within me to be able to do what we're doing together here was erased in a very public and painful way. But it needed to be, because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have been able to kind of take that train ride across the country. I wouldn't have been able to put on a Kroger bag mascot thing and go to the training programs we used to do. And at the end of the trainings, I was the Kroger bag,
Oh man, that's got to be another episode too.
Yeah, we got to show that. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do all those things necessary to reboot and rebuild the company. It wasn't fair, and I don't think it was right. And when I die, one of the three questions I ask God is, I'm gonna be like, God, why Shark Tank? Why you got to do me like that?
Yeah.
But I think that it was necessary, and I'm grateful for it because we're in the midst together with all of you guys and the team that we're building to write a pretty epic comeback. Because, and I'll tell you, and we're way over time, but we set the damn rules anyway,
Right.
so we can change them. But
Yep.
Full circle moment.
Yeah.
About when was this? A year and a half ago. So about a year and a half after Shark Tank, we just got our first multi-million-dollar check from one of our partners. Happened to be one of my best friend's weddings. I was flying out to LA for his wedding. And I'm in the wedding reception, and I look up, and I have the check in my pocket because it's so surreal to me. I just got it. I'm holding it, like it's like a third leg,
Protecting it. Yeah.
And I see Mark Cuban, and he's in his Mavericks tank top and shorts, and I'm like, what the fuck? Because
Wow.
Mark Cuban, and he happened to just be staying at the hotel.
Really?
And instinctively, I literally just walk right towards him. I'm like, I didn't even think. I'm like, well, Mark Cuban, what the heck? I got this couple $1 million check in my pocket. And I walk right to him and I'm like, Mark? He's like, be somebody? and I'm like, yeah, Kash. And he's like, hey, Kash, how's it going? I'm like, Mark, what the hell, man? Why did you do me like that? And he's like, it's just TV, Kash. It's all for TV. And I'm like, oh, it's cool. And we started kind of shooting the shit for a bit. And then I was like, he's like, how are things going? I'm like, honestly, Mark, we're very blessed. Been working our ass off, pivoted the company, and just got our first multi-million-dollar check. And we asked you for $1 million for 10% equity. And I was like, got a couple mil, didn't give up any, And I'm like, and you told me to go be somebody, bro, at the end of the show. So, that's what we're trying to do. And he's like, and he was super cool. He was honestly he was a bit of an asshole on the show, on the set, because he's playing a character, but he was like, I'm so happy for you. I'm really glad to hear that. But I mean, what are the chances, man?
Yeah.
What are the chances? And that's why, and that moment just reminded me we're on the right path. And all that happened, you know, for a reason, to help us and help me build the mental toughness necessary to go build what we're going to build. And, you know, where we are at Be Somebody Inc. with our podcast, obviously, is where we're focused now. At BSB Group International, we're building one of the fastest growing agencies and firms in America. And we know there's a lot more for us to build. We got a big mountain to climb, and this is just, we ain't even halfway up it.
Right.
But if we didn't go through what we went through, and if I didn't go through what I went through, we wouldn't be able to climb the mountain, as high of a mountain that we want to climb. So, so when you Google Shark Tank and you read the headlines, you know, was it all real what you read and what you saw? No. But I'll tell you, that feeling in your stomach that you probably felt, whether it was humiliation or laughter or whatever, about what I must have been feeling, was true. And, you know, it was a painful experience. I don't really wish it on anyone, because it's really weird for strangers to message you out of the blue. And it's helped me, because in the years that followed, even when I really don't like somebody, whether it's, you know, politician or celebrity, whatever, man, I never talk shit about people on social media and things like that, because you just never know. You know, you really know, you know, people talk about fake news and stuff, and some of it, I mean, you don't know what's real.
Yeah.
So there's never, nothing good comes from, and no need ever to just go off on someone on social media or anything like that.
Yep.
That should be another episode.
That's a whole nother episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome story once again, Kash. Thank you, man, for sharing that with us and to all of our listeners. Don't forget, guys, subscribe on besomebody.com. Favorite channels, favorite podcasts, Spotify, iTunes. Actually, iTunes isn't even there anymore, is it?
I think so.
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, besomebody.com. We out.
Thank you, guys.